Disfrutar. A disfrutar.
Sí. ¿Ya puedo empezar? Hola a todos y a todas. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Mariana Castaño Cano. I am the founder and CEO of 10 Billion Solutions, Climate and Sustainability Communications. And it's my absolute pleasure to be your moderator today for this session at this day, which is very special. It's the Youth, Children, Skills and Education Day. A lot compressed in just one day. Actually, it's about society, it's about communication, it's about engaging stakeholders. And today's event, it's about democratizing the race to zero. The race to zero, what is it? The race to zero is the absolute mission we are all embarked in, or we should all be embarked in, which is to reach climate neutrality by 2050. And some parties are calling for climate neutrality to be embedded in the nationally determined contributions by 2040. So let's hope that that little bit of text is included in the final decision, or at least that it started to be socialized among the delegates, and that we can push the ambition to 2040. And how do we get to how do we get to zero? How do we get to climate neutrality? We need everybody, not just the about 200 parties or countries represented in the plenaries. We need a whole of a society effort. We need the so-called constituencies in the language that we like to use, the very mysterious languages of the UNFCCC processes. So the constituencies are everybody who's not a country representative. It's cities, children, women, laborers, meaning trade unions, businesses, investors, everybody. 8 billion people. So how do we get 8 billion people into climate action? How do we democratize the race to zero? Today we have an amazing panel of experts with us, and I'm going to introduce you to all of them. First, Camila Ramirez. She's the director campaign for the climate action champions that I'm sure you are all familiar with. They were created or established in the Paris Agreement, but they started working already before in Lima. I remember that the idea was already with the Lima to Paris action agenda. They have a whole plate on their table, the climate champions, because they are in charge of democratizing the race to zero. Race to zero in terms of mitigation, race to zero in terms of adaptation. So Camila, we are going to talk to you about how the climate champion team is democratizing the race to zero. We have Philippine Menager. She comes from Zaragoza, originally from France, but she is established in Zaragoza, Spain. Philippine is executive officer for the Por el Clima community in ECODES, Ecology and Development Foundation of Spain. We have Mariluz Castilla with us today as well. Mariluz is a board member of the Spanish Green Growth Group, which is connecting the worlds of businesses, investors, etc., with the public affairs world. We also have Daniel Tururan. Daniel is a B Corp ambassador and is in charge also of BILARB Europe. Hello, Daniel, and welcome.
Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Bianca Cantoni. She is advocacy advisor for ICLEI South America. ICLEI is the organization that is leading the subnationals, the cities constituency in the UNFCCC process. Thank you, everyone, for being with us in this bright morning. Let's start. Let's start with Camila. So, Camila, you are running from one place to another here in Dubai, in Panama at Climate Week just a few weeks ago, because you are all democratizing the Race to Zero campaign. So please let us a little bit know about the approach from the high-level climate champions team to democratizing the Race to Zero. How are you bringing everybody on board?
I think the Race to Zero campaign was launched to not leave no one behind, and it's a unique campaign that brings different actors from different sectors, and already it's like a umbrella campaign that want to bring different initiatives that were already working in how to achieve net to zero. And I want to first say that indeed it's like a mitigation goal, because want to achieve like be carbon neutral by 2050, but halve the emissions by 2030. But it's more that a mitigation goal is a resilience commitment of what the world that we want to achieve in 2050. So it's, when we say no one behind, it's like if we want to work toward a new economy, who are the members, who are the actors that we want in this economy? And if you want to be resilient in this new business model, you have to be part of this campaign. So how do you incorporate SMEs that probably are not part of the problem, but they need to be part of the solutions because they're the scope 3 or the one that probably are part of the problem? You need to bring them. You need to bring university, because if they're not aware of teaching this, probably the new business models are not going to be part of the solution. So what Race to Zero want to be, and that's the reason that it's an umbrella campaign, is bring the different initiatives that are working with a really strict criteria. And then I think that is probably one of our ambition goals. It's like to be in Race to Zero, you have to be the highest ambitions one that want to achieve that. And probably that's the challenge that we have now, that someone could be quite behind on reach the criteria, but he's to, because otherwise he's going to be behind in, I don't know, in 10 years more. So it's a process that needs to please first create awareness, then support a lot, like in how to increase the ambition. It's like step by step, and then like how you support the implementation. So how you really involve everyone. I think that's the reason that we have different partners. That one is working with university, the other one is working with city, with regions, with business, with financial institutions, in different language, in different message, with different also like steps that each member have to achieve. So for us in Race to Zero is building a narrative that what is the business model that we want to create in terms of like the change between the economy, and how you incorporate the different challenges that each member has to create this, like, is like a long-term goal that sometimes is quite difficult to see in the beginning. But that's the reason that we are being more strategy on which are the first step or the zero step even. Then one is the first one, the second, the third, to like create this theory of change that is going to be net zero as a normalized thing in the economy. So it's difficult to create different messages, because it's also like understanding and be really empathy with the challenge that people are feeling on the ground. But it's part of our strategy to share first and create like an accessible campaign that is really clear, like the 5th P is how you start like creating the first the pledge, second created a plan, then third proceed, then publish, and then persuade. It's quite overwhelming how to do it, but if you focus first on the pledge and then you recognize that you are already commitment, then you move forward. And I think that's the reason that we want to mobilize the theory of change.
Thank you very much. Like, is it like a tent where everybody fits the Race to Zero? And could you tell us, in the case of Latin America, the region that you are very close to, how are you mobilizing people to let them know, hey, there is a tent here, and you fit, even if you don't know much, even if you don't emit much, but you can also make a big difference. How are you inviting everybody into the tent?
In my work progress, I have to understand that that Race to Zero doesn't fit anyone. And I have to adapt my narrative too. So I split, and it is part of my strategy. First, I need to create awareness. And it's like, I need to talk to people that I'm aware that they're not aware about Race to Zero. So I can like engage them, like, do you need to increase your ambition? It's like, ambition for what? It's like, and that's the reason I like the step 0 message. It's like, I need to create awareness, I need to create information, accessible information, even in Spanish, Portuguese, like for the people that I have in Latin America. And also support a lot, like teach, have meeting, have coffee, everything, because I need to do this mainstream, because otherwise like people are exchanged in the community and became like a stress the message when they have more a question is because they're implementing already in their mind or the business model. So first is create awareness. Then is increase ambition. So the ones that are already measuring their footprints or being commitment in some organizations are doing the work, how I secure that they achieve the 1.5 So how they increase ambition, and that's the reason that they need to fit the criteria. But it's the second step. And then it's how I support implementation, and it's how I map the different actors that are already like championing the race. And I said, like, you have to be the leaders implementing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5P. And the 5P is the more important, because when they persuade, they work upstream, downstream, and they start changing their supply chain. And also not even the supply chain, is like how I collaborate with the government, and that's the reason that the policy races is starting to be like a community, like how you have the tools to work with the government. And I'm going to be really happy to hear Mariluz, like, what are the regulations, the tools, like the ecosystem, the framework that is going to accelerate what I'm already championing, implementing my tools. So you have to be with tailored message for tailored situation that you are, because you can't like put everyone in the same stage. And I think in each step you have to collaborate with the one that could be the awareness process, the one that support implementation, the one that can support increase in ambition, because people are so fragmented, sectors are so different, so you can put everyone in the same package.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Camila. You mentioned translation. You mentioned the need to communicate in the language that people understand, to meet the people where they are, not where you think that they are or they should be in terms of knowledge. Philippine, the Comunidad por el Clima, for the climate community, is doing exactly that, making climate action accessible and understandable to everybody. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you for the question. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So we're doing that. We're trying to do it best. First of all, I just want to precise that I will focus my answer on Latin American and Ibero-American communities, because it's with these communities that we are working on. So I can't talk about other regions of the world. And to answer this question, I think I have like 3 major points that are really interconnected. But first of all, on language. So yeah, we already talked about translation. Right now we are at COP. We are in the Spanish pavilion, and we are speaking Spanish. We're speaking Spanish because it's the common language that...
Well, now we're speaking English, but...
English. Sorry, you see that I'm getting confused. We're speaking in Spanish, in English, because it's a common language that everyone, or almost everyone, is speaking. But maybe right now some people are trying to see us from Spain, because we're in the Spanish pavilion, and they can't understand it. Because in the end, within these 8 billion people that are forming the constituency, not everyone is speaking English. And we have to adapt to that. Comunidad por el Clima, our community, our organization, is participating to COP since Lima. So it's been a bit of a while. And we saw the lack of information in English, we saw the lack of information, in Spanish, in any other language. And this is why we created Ambition COP. We created a daily newsletter with everything in Spanish, with articles, interviews, with everything going on, doing negotiation, doing the side events. And we have many subscribers, not only because it's a really good newsletter, because the information is not here in Spanish for so many people. So with that being said, I think translation is not just changing words and like doing a reverse or deeper work, depending on what app you are using, but it's also adapting to a cultural context. Mm-hmm. We are talking to very different regions, with very different countries, and very different localities. So this is why, for instance, if you're showcasing best practices, study cases, because we need examples for implementation, and if you're using a video of businesses from UK for Spanish SMEs or Latin American SMEs, it will not work, because sectors are different, and even if the video is subtitled, well, it will not be the same cultural approach. And just to finish on that, well, it's not just language, it's also communication. No? What we are talking about, democratization, is communicating. And how can we communicate better? Right now we are at COP. We are in a climate bubble, a bit. We are
Well, less of a bubble. I saw Miss Canada the other day walking around, so I think that a lot of new people are coming into the bubble.
yes,
So we should start to think that they are outsiders now, part of this bubble.
exactly. But we are talking about net zero. We are talking about Paris Agreement, about NDC, about GST, about every terms that we can possibly think of. And sometimes we forget that people outside of this bubble, of these new bubbles, don't understand it and are not part of that. So we cannot forget that. And this is what we are doing, just to conclude, with Hostelería por el Clima. It's an initiative working on bar and restaurants. We are including them into the Paris Agreement because at the end of the day, they are part of the Paris Agreement. And how are we working with them? Right now we are 7,500 bar and restaurants in Spain working with us. And we are not talking about net zero, we are not talking about emissions or about Paris goals, even if we are working on that, because we need to go to the pragmatic, realistic daily life actions. We need to go to this reality.
Exactly. And again, find people where people are, not just in terms of their knowledge, but also physically, right? Because we are 100,000 here at the COP. It may look a lot, but we need to reach to 8 billion. So in Spain, we used to say that there are more bars than people. So, in some villages, there is not a city hall, but you have always a bar. So congratulations in this initiative to make hospitality and this sector to become ambassadors of the climate messages. So it's a great idea.
Thank you.
So we heard Camila talked about, Mariluz, the difficulty of conveying the message of the urgency into the SMEs, a sector which is very fragmented because SMEs are too busy in surviving, especially in this time where doing business is not easy because of inflation, because of the difficulties, economic difficulties and others. From your perspective, how communication and how democratizing the race to zero can help to bring down barriers? It can be barriers in terms of knowledge, awareness, but also tools. I mean, how do I calculate my footprint and how do I make it go down? So from your perspective, what are the tools that we can use to help SMEs to join the race to zero?
You raised a very interesting question about SMEs. Let me go back just one moment, because as a Spanish Green Growth Group, this is a group of companies that are really leaders on sustainability, because they see this as an opportunity. And this is very important. It's an opportunity for companies, it's an opportunity for society, it's an opportunity for countries. So this idea of opportunity, we have to convey that to SMEs. And for SMEs, it's not the same. I mean, in the group, we have top leader companies that are driving all the supply chain. And when we reach SMEs, what we are doing first is to attract first movers on the SMEs. We need some examples of companies, of small, medium-sized companies that have taken climate action as an opportunity and they succeed. So we have this type of companies also in the group, and it's important to showcase how are they succeeding on that. Second thing is that we collaborate with others to push for that ambition. So, for instance, recently we supported the development of a SMEs guide with the right language for SMEs, and we found out that, as you mentioned, SMEs have more difficulties. I mean, they don't even know how to calculate the carbon footprint, which would be maybe the first step. So they have less resources. Sometimes they don't see so much the opportunity, they see more the cost. But of course they have an opportunity. They have an opportunity to differentiate themselves. They have an opportunity to get finance and to attract that finance. I mean, there is support for them. So we have to convey that message to them. So we found that to attract SMEs to the race to zero, we have three key drivers. One is themselves. They have to get convinced that the first step is to start measuring their own carbon footprint, to put a plan, to look for alliance, maybe with the clients, maybe with their suppliers, maybe with public administrations, maybe looking for finance, but they have to do that plan. And they have to start acting as themselves. I mean, this self-driving, they need to do the step forward. But there were two other elements that were also important. The other element was the big companies, and we have very important companies in the Spanish Green Growth Group. This is the scope 3 for them. I mean, most of the small, medium-sized companies are on scope 3 for the big companies. So they can do a lot of efforts either to request specific questions to their small-sized companies, to help them, and help them means provide tools. Some of the companies are even providing finance or specific financing tools to help them. But this opportunity of the big ones driving the small ones is very important. And in our group, we are very conscious of that. And the third driver was administrations. And administrations, we know the role of administration, but for the SMEs, it's important that they really provide platforms to interchange best practices, provide funding sometimes, provide even easy the way to the knowledge. I mean, make it easy, digitalize things. I mean, this is sometimes small companies even have difficulties to access the knowledge because it's too complex. I mean, they say, oof, it's too complex for me. I mean, I will not reach the end. So with these three elements, we can succeed bringing SMEs to the race to zero. In Spain, for instance, 90% of the companies are SMEs, and they account for more than 64% of the gross added value. So, and they could represent almost 50% of the emissions. So it's a huge collective. But bringing those drivers together and helping them with this type of guide, SMEs. Another good example in Spain, I will raise more later, but we are also supporting a pact for SMEs, climate and resilience. And what we are supporting this platform of people that are trying to help SMEs to enter on the climate race. And then each actor, it can be foundations, it can be ECODES, it can be commercial organizations. They bring different tools. They bring tools for SMEs, awareness, communication, knowledge, these type of things. And putting all that together creates momentum, and this is helping SMEs to move forward. So the Race to Zero, I think it's a great campaign because it's not only governments who are responsible for that. We need the rest of the actors. And of course, business play a big role. Big companies play a big role, but SMEs are essential if we want to reach the net zero objective.
And they are closer to the people as well, right? Because they are more embedded in the community probably than the bigger companies. Just 1 minute ago, we heard about the hospitality for climate examples with 7,000, I think, bars, restaurants joining. Mariluz, what examples, success stories could you bring up here today that can illustrate these efforts that you are driving?
I just mentioned two of them. I mean, providing a guide for SMEs, being part of a bigger pact with other actors. And we are also representing in Spain the Pymes Climate Hub of the women business. This is a huge campaign across the world, also to incorporate SMEs on this wall. And we are helping them in Spain to raise that message and to bring that to SMEs. And what they are requesting is that SMEs reduce emissions by 20% for 2030 and reach net zero for 2050. So it's an excellent platform because they bring tools, they bring knowledge, they bring financing information for SMEs. So it's an excellent platform, and in Spain we are helping them, representing them to move this example forward. And we think that, as I mentioned before, attracting first movers, everything that has to change, we need some first movers, some companies that say, I will jump and I will take a bit the risk because I see the opportunities at the end, but I jump. And we are attracting those first leaders to the Spanish Green Growth Group, And we are collaborating. This is essential. We cannot succeed alone. We are probably collaborating with most of the people in that table. Collaborating with others when there is SMEs Climate Hub. This is a good tool. There is a lot of elements for SMEs. We are supporting that. We are running campaigns with that. And those are good examples on how can we reach bring the message to the SMEs and visualize that there is success when you join the climate race. So this is what we are doing.
Thank you and congratulations for the hub. It's a very good initiative, Mariluz. And now I'm going to talk to an ambassador. But ambassadors used to go to capital cities to bring the word of their country. And I am afraid that the big corp, you don't need to go preach anywhere. People come to you to ask and to join because the big corp movement has become now almost a mainstream thing. In the few years that I am in this circuit, I've seen the big corp label in more and more, not just products, even courses, universities. Everybody wants to join. So, Daniel, what is the secret of the success? And how are you also helping corporations, all sizes, not to feel overwhelmed by the double labeling, the need to join now the race to zero or the B Corp, and also this ESG scoring? Let us. What is first, the recipe for success? And second, how are you navigating this world now, where things seems to be even more overwhelming?
I love all this optimism. It's a very hot day. If anybody's joining from Spain, it's very hot here, trust me. So it's not as if we have the solutions or we're doing everything great. There's a real urgency, right? I think we all feel it. I think in the B Corp movement, what we feel, there's a energy, there's a desire, because you can have all the rules, all the regulations, all the how-to, but people will not move until they're really pushed and driven to make the change happen. So the interesting thing of the B Corp assessment, which is very difficult to actually get to the one of the best companies for the world, is it does not only measure the sustainability area, which is fundamental, but also how do you treat workers? What's your relation with the community? What is your governance? So it's a much wider measurement and way to actually improve companies. And B Corps are just part of a wave. No? I teach at the EOI, the Escuela de Organización Industrial, which is sponsored by the ministry. And it's very interesting that the materials I used to give 2 years ago are obsolete. These executives are saying, okay, I know that, give me something else. So we're really part of this wave of awareness. The other day, because of the time difference, it was 11 o'clock tonight here when I gave the class. It was interesting, one of these executives was saying, in my company, big bank, I will not mention any names, they said, last week, every time I need to make an investment assessment, I have to click, is it sustainable or not? This guy was overjoyed last week. So you can see even small measures that really go forward. Now the B Corp movement is showing that it's a business model that works. Because companies, if anybody has started a company, it's very nice to say you should do this and that. Companies need profits to operate. But now B Corps are showing that you can make money by looking after the planet, being regenerative, looking after the people and so forth. So it's, to me, that's the most exciting part. And also the driver is that I'm seeing is investors. Portaventura became a B Corp. A tourist place becoming a B Corp, that's kind of strange. So I asked them, why on earth did you become a B Corp? What drove you? Our two main investors, KKR and Invest Holding, said either you become a B Corp or we don't invest in you. That's never happened before, that investors are pushing there. MásMóvil, another B Corp, and they said, we invest 3 times less in marketing and 3 times more in ESG. Guess what? We're making more money than name of competition. So you're seeing that this business model works because it's driven also by pride.
Absolutely.
People are proud to work there. People are proud to buy from these companies. Investors are proud to be there. So you're seeing a very positive message, a positive action that is happening, an outcome driven by this sustainable governance, employee, wider things. We say be human, be planet, be bee. Very important, as everybody knows, there's no P's in B Corp. Yeah, it's B de buena, it's not P de perfect. So there's no perfect companies, no perfect organizations. It's not that B Corps are, wow. It's just the sign of something that needed to happen, that is expanding very fast because it works.
Also, there is a scoring. I mean, you don't need to get to 100 already from the first year, right? I mean, which is something that can be overwhelming for some organizations. I was at the Climate Week in New York, and somebody was saying the SG Climate Summit, there was only one business leader in the room, which was the CEO of Allianz.
Huh?
One, because it is difficult, right, to reach that bar. The bar is very high. So what can the Race to Zero campaign learn from the B Corp history in how do we adopt an approach which is a gradual approach? It's not like a big bang. Okay, I become super sustainable and aligned with Race to Zero from one day to the other. No, this is a work in progress.
I think I was quite excited in Madrid at the very end. About 150 B Corps got on stage, main plenary after Ana Botín, just to show we are committing to net zero. So they commit, they go there. That's one of the great outcomes of that. So there's a real commitment going there. So I think what can B Corps learn from net zero is more than the other way around. And what I'm seeing is something that really drives this kind of change going forward that really makes sense with the sense of sustainability going forward. The collaboration is another key element. So too many companies are receiving, you're terrible, so they're not receiving collaboration. So I was seeing other large companies here. Acciona is another example. Acciona, for example, decided not to become a B Corp, but they changed their statutes and they included the B Corp phrase in their statutes. So the soul of the company is now B Corp. And we work for them because they're now training all their providers in the B impact assessment. So even without being a B Corp, they're using the methodology to really drive change throughout all they're doing. So to me, it's really important to collaborate. To understand, like we are here in the UAE. I think I was the only person who said, yes, I'm so happy we're coming here. Why? Because you cannot leave these countries on their own. You cannot leave big companies on your own. You need to be part of it. Create the engagement, create the imagination of what can be, and drive a successful business forward. So this collaborative spirit, this co-creation of solutions is a key driver together with pride and feeling that I am one of the best companies for the world.
It's a very human thing to do, actually, just to sit and to have an open, honest conversation, right? But to acknowledge and to accept that we are not all arriving to this race in the same shape, right? So it's or with the same shoes. Some can afford buying a $200 shoes, another needs to, run in flip-flops. So yeah, we need to collaborate and help each other. And now we're going to turn to the cities, subnational governments. It's huge, right? I mean, you are everywhere. I don't know how many members ICLEI has, Bianca, but it must be a lot.
Around the world, more than 2,000 cities and regions and states.
Representing how many people?
I'll have to check.
Many millions people.
Yeah, many millions.
Many millions. Bianca, from your perspective, how are you from ICLEI? I mean, you have a huge responsibility here because you have to educate the newcomers into the process. So ICLEI has been in the process for a very long time, and now you have, I don't know, the president of the region of Andalusia was here, and mayors from all around the world are here. So it's a difficult thing to do because the process is growing. Everybody is willing to be part of this movement, but it is a great problem to have, right? So how are you approaching this need for being more inclusive?
Yeah, I would say challenging, but not difficult. Actually, we are very happy that the number of local governments participating at COPs is increasing every year. I will have to disagree with my colleague that says that most of the people speaks English because they don't. And this is one of the main challenges that we have in including these local governments, especially from the global south. Speaking about South America precisely, I would say like 98% of the mayors and local leaders does not speak English. So they come to COP, but they cannot let their voices, they cannot let their voices be heard. So this is a challenging thing, but we are very happy that every year the number of local governments it's increasing net COPs. The main challenge, as Camila and my colleagues also said, I think it's in translating the climate agenda into local realities. Because for many people, including mayors that are here at COP, they face climate change as something like distance. Of course, they want to participate. They think that is so like cool being around and participating in tables and meeting other people, but they don't know yet that climate change has to do with jobs, that climate change has to do with health, mobility, and security. They don't know that. I feel that they still feel like climate change and these net zero goals are something a little bit far away than they are now in their realities, and their priorities are other. They like to come, they like to make new commitments such as Race to Zero and many others that are around, but I think that our main goal is to translate to them that this what's happening here has to do with their main strategies in local level. So that's why we talk a lot about these campaigns, all of these campaigns in ICLEI. We are trying now, of course, we had the 2021, which was the ambition year, and that we launched Waste to Zero. ICLEI is one of the implementation organizations and partner organizations of Race to Zero. But now we are focused on implementation. So we are not fostering new commitments anymore for any campaign, nor Race to Zero or other hundreds that are around, but we are willing to help that signatories that are already part of it to be the decision game changers, because otherwise we will have thousands and hundreds of signatories and commitments with no action.
Yeah.
So my colleague says the first movers. So we are now willing to work with these first movers, which are the cities and regions and states that has already committed, and now we are trying to reach them to help them with tools, with knowledge, with technical assistance to implement their climate action that they agreed for.
Like they turn promises into action that it's hanging from those big flags all around the venue. And Bianca, in the case of South America and bridging the local governments and the business community, because we know they are agents of change, because they have to deliver, they have to manage budget, they have to deliver for their people or the stakeholders. Could you please give us some examples of how are you fostering collaboration between businesses and local governments?
Yes, we are each year more close to the business sector. I will give an example of ICLEI South America, a program that we have that it calls ICLEI Innovation. These programs aim to attach small enterprises, startups with the city halls, and it works like that. The city hall looked for us for implement this program, and then ICLEI, together with the city hall, runs a tournament. I don't know that things to accelerate startups. And the city hall, of course, they have a main challenge that they want to address. It can be harborization or any other mobility issues, any other that they want to. And this call to action, this call to the startups, to these contests, has this topic in the ground. So we, with of course a group of experts and the city hall, select the startups that will receive a seed capital to start implementing that solution in the city. So I think I don't know if it's clear, but I think it's a great example of collaboration between ICLEI. It's intermediating this collaboration. The city hall is involved, and we foster the startup in innovation systems inside the city hall at the local level. So it's a very interesting one. And then, of course, this startup has the seed capital to help the city hall and start the working. So we have very good examples of ICLEI Innovation round roundtables. And also we have other examples such as here at COP, ICLEI South America just signed a MOU with the Brazilian National Confederation of
Entrepreneurs?
no, it's seguradora.
Insurance.
Insurance, of course, with the National Confederation of Insurance for helping. There is the National Congress nowadays is discussing a law that will oblige the cities to have like insurance for climate change disasters. So we are just now. We also have a project with KfW for urban infrastructure insurance. And so on. So with this, we are in contact with many insurance enterprises. We are also bringing the companies, the private companies, to ICLEI's regional and national meetings, so they can talk and dialogue with the cities and their principal needs and many other things. So I think it's increasing every day more.
And it will increase much more in the next 2 years ahead of the Latin American COP in Brazil.
We hope so, yes.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of work because if everybody wanted to be in Dubai, everybody, even more, 2 times more people will want to be in Brazil. So it's going to be a huge opportunity to outreach for everyone. And now I would like to give the opportunity for the people here in the room. And I didn't say hello to the people watching us from abroad. It's still early in Spain, even it's night time in Latin America. So thank you everybody for being watching. And now I would like to see if in the room there are questions. If there are questions, please raise your hand and introduce yourself. It can be a question, it can be a comment, a reaction.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Javier Garcia. I'm the Director General of the Spanish Association for Standardization, UNE, but I'm also the Vice President of ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. My question is to Mariluz. Mariluz, you were referring before to SMEs and their challenges to face this race to zero. I'm sure in the Spanish Green Growth Group there are some good case studies of how those big companies, those tractor companies, are promoting that their supply chain, that their value chain is slowly but surely entering into this way of reporting or learning to deal with these difficulties. Can you share some of those, if at all? Because I think it's the huge challenge. I mean, it's difficult for big companies, but for SMEs, it's science fiction. So I think there is probably good case studies and more than we can do by standardizing some of those good examples. Thank you.
Yeah, this probably applies to Spain, but applies to any country with SMEs. Big companies, many big companies, the top leaders, are having net zero commitments. Net zero commitments means that you need to decarbonize all your supply chain. So you need to work with your supply chain if you want to decarbonize. This means asking for certification sometimes, asking for credentials to your suppliers, rating them to work with one and not maybe with the others. I mean, I know that idea. Also helping them, supporting them. Sometimes can be a financial support or can be a punishment if you are not working in that direction. I will not work with you and this is your business. Or helping them with guidance. Just joining, we have the experience to join many suppliers and to share good practices. And many are small companies that maybe don't have so easy access to this information. So certification also help. I mean, credentials. If I have some credentials, you are my client and you believe that I'm doing in the right direction. Probably this is a transformation for all the companies, for big ones and for small ones. This is a transformative agenda, and I think we have to bear in mind that this requires changing the way of doing things. for big companies with their suppliers and for the small companies also. And this means maybe changing products, changing policies internally, changing the way of doing things, and this is the type of agenda. And we strongly believe that big companies have a very strong role as a tractor, I was saying, to push for SMEs, because they have the commitments. They may have big core commitments or net zero commitments, but those commitments can only be achieved if you include SMEs. And in Europe, we have this regulatory framework for reporting. So it's not mandatory for SMEs, but it's mandatory for big companies. And you have to show how are you doing with your supply chain. So we will be voluntary forced to act with them and to help them and to bring them here. And with the big companies that are in the Spanish Green Growth Group, most of them have this type of either requirements or plans for interchanging best practice or support, or even helping companies to attract the finance that is available. That sometimes is not so easy. I mean, in Europe, we have the next generation. We have really many finance available around. And sometimes SMEs doesn't know how to capture. So the role of helping them to capture that, investing in photovoltaic, this is a good business case now. So sometimes it's even cost savings, but they need to realize that, and then helping them on that journey, I think is a big role, and the Spanish Green Growth Group is taking a bit that role, collaborating with others.
Thank you for that, Javier and Mariluz. Do we have any more questions and comments, reactions, ideas, invitations to join events later on? Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I would like to make a small announcement, which is like we are launching 10 Billion Solutions in Spain here at COP28 with the hope that we can bring together more and more people around a new way of telling stories. Tell your story, inspire change is our motto. And we heard your stories. And for me, you are very inspiring. I hope that for the audience here as well. I would like, before we go with our day, I would like to hear from you what keeps you going. I mean, we see these colors here on the Spain sign. We see the colors here. These are the climate stripes. The planet is warming. As you said, Daniel, we are not there. We are not doing the job. We must deliver if we want to leave a livable planet for the next generation. But we need to do it in joy and with hope. So what keeps you joyful and hopeful as you do your job? Camila, in 1 minute.
Very difficult, and I think it's part of the responsibility of being aware. It's like once you hear, you can like avoid the reality that you're facing. And as I empathize with the reality that probably I'm not facing on my grounds, but I can see it, it's my responsibility to do something. And I find all the opportunities that are moving around. It's just like thing to manage probably there, but sharing to others, like bring someone and collaborating. I can avoid like doing the thing that I like it, and I really want a better word. So once I move step by step, even if it's not a big step, I think each step counts. And I think, well, I inspire probably being coherent with what I am finding. More people are going to follow in a good sense, or in probably the sense that fits for everyone. So I think it's part of the responsibility of being aware.
Absolutely, thank you. I love what you say, that I can't avoid doing what I do. Thank you for that, Camila. Philippine.
Well, I would like to, so many things to say, but I would like just to mention two. First one is that, so we are following every COP, every summit, climate, water, everything, since already many years. And sometimes we can feel without any hope, with a lot of anger when we are still thinking about fossil fuels. But if we don't take the opportunity to believe in the changes, to believe that this year maybe we will have this phase out of fossil fuel, well, I don't see how we can last that more than 1 year or 1 day in this job, because it's too much to take. And the other thing I would like to say about joy and hope is that we have to go down to this reality. And well, 1 week ago, I was in the roundtable about health and how to go on with Waste to Zero on health action. And they said that we had to do the sexy and the not sexy. And I think it's a good way to frame it, that we have to go down in the street to talk to people that don't know anything about climate action. And sometimes you will have, like, you will not be in big panels, you will not be in big events doing some important meetings, but you will have an impact. And I think we have to remember that it's the most important one, and that every person that you are talking climate action to and can tell you, it's a good thing, or I will try to have a look on, it must be seen as a joy and as a hope for the future.
Thank you, Philippine, for that. So, following with this metaphor of the tent, climate action is a tent where everybody fits, but not everybody is going to enter through the same door. This is very important, or the same motivation. Marilu, from what keeps you hopeful?
I'm bringing here the business perspective. So we understand the responsibility and the urgency of the moment. But I will just leave one word, which is opportunities. I think there are opportunities for everyone. There are opportunities for society, job creation, with a transformation, the transformations we are in. There are new jobs to be created. There are new industries to be created. We are unable to reindustrialize our countries. So for me, the one word that we, for the group, Spanish Green Growth Group, keep us alive is the wall of opportunities that is raising for everybody, for the countries, for the geographies, for the cities, for the industry, because the model is changing. So this wall of opportunities we have to grasp, otherwise others will do that. And for each country we have that wall of opportunities, and we are pursuing the right landscape to take benefit of those opportunities for everyone, for the industry, for the societies, and for the people.
Absolutely. As you said before, we need a mindset shift. We must stop seeing climate action as a burden and see it as a wall of opportunities, as you said.
Absolutely.
Daniel, from your perspective, what is a source of hope?
From my perspective, the hope is that human beings are very imperfect. It's example. You have a deadline on the 20th of December. When will you actually deliver the work? 18th, 19th, right? So the world is coming to an end. When will we fix it? The month before. So it's going to be really terrible, but we're going to fix it. So I'm very optimistic that just like our mindset goes last moment, we'll do exactly the same. It's going to be so hard. I don't know why we're not doing it now, but the wave is huge. So we did the Be Good Day, the event of B Corp Spain, just a couple of weeks ago. 450 people, sold out. In May, we organized an event for CEOs. We asked CEOs, can you please stop for 2 days and talk about regenerative solutions, the B for Good Leaders, or again, B Corp. 1,200 CEOs, and it was sold out, and the price was very high. So it's incredible how much momentum there is right now to make things happen now and not then. And how we're going to make it happen is coming together. We have Barcelona Más B, so we are connecting with the cities. We co-create this law, it's big, the Empresa con Propósito, so incredible. I can say, wait, I created a law in Spain, which is pretty amazing. So things are happening now, which have never happened before, and I am surrounded by people with the energy to make things happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think we need a climate stripes of action, and it will get into even hotter than the global warming. So that's an idea. Bianca, what keeps you hopeful? Reasons to keep going?
I think the good examples, because to be honest, I get much frustrated in my daily work because things are not happening at the speed that they should be. Sometimes, to be frankly, I think that these commitments are not going anywhere. But then someone gives me like a good example. I visit one of the most sustainable buildings in the world. I think it's in Dubai, of the BIA companies, BIA headquarters, something like that. Okay. And it was like amazing. They came from the future, like precisely from the future. So that gives me hope. So, but not just like these huge entrepreneurs or at national or regional level. We can make like good examples in our neighborhoods, in our building, in the building that we live, in any other, in any scale, we can make good examples. So what keeps me going, it's those good examples, and I'm really working hard to make them be more and more in number, because still there's an imbalance between good examples and
Definitely.
no examples.
Well, I am a journalist, and bad news don't make the cover of papers. But we need to change that as well.
Yes.
Because good stories are mobilizing at a much higher level than fear, right, or alarm. We need the bad news, right, but we need to give hope to the people and avenues for action. Well, thank you very much, Bianca, Daniel, Mariluz, Philippine, and Camila. It's a pleasure sharing time with you. I've learned a lot from you. I'm looking forward to meet you again in another occasion. I want to thank the Fundación Biodiversidad from Spain, the Spanish Ministry of Ecological Transition, Manuya, of course, Carla and Fernanda for putting together this event, and our colleagues, our technical colleagues and the managers of the pavilion. Thank you, everybody. I wish you a very beautiful day, and let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Muchísimas gracias.